Hello darlings, welcome to my YouTube channel. I think this is going to be an ongoing thing for me, particularly just for the astrology. It came about as an experiment if you watched the last video where I had some technical failings and I couldn't get my usual post up, but it was a chance for me to pivot and change directions, which has brought me to here. So here we are, and I hope that this format supports you and the things that I'm about to talk about maybe are helpful and resonate with you. Yeah, so let's just get into it. So today is the 25th of October. The new moon in Scorpio arrives tonight. There's a solar eclipse. The new moon in Scorpio is the second new moon after Marbon, which is actually true Samhain. So when we talk about Halloween and Samhain, it's not actually the 31st of October, it's the second new moon after Marbon, which is today. So first I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Samhain, and then we'll go into the rest of the astrology. Forgive me if it's a bit garbled. We will do our best. You can go to my website and read a full description of Samhain. You can also find a bunch of rituals and recipes over there to support you. So I'm just going to briefly touch on it. So hooray, we made it. Samhain is the beginning of winter, or entering the darkness of winter. It's the opposite of Beltane. So Beltane, we celebrate the masculine aspect. We can call him the god or the green man. So at Beltane, we're celebrating him at his highest peak and the beginning of summer. And Samhain is the opposite of that. So we've harvested, we've done the work, we've lived through summer, hopefully we've had a great time, we've grown, we've learned, we've achieved a load of things. And now is when we recognize that the growing time is over and we enter what I call the cauldron of transformation. So again, you can go to my website, you can read about the symbology of cauldrons, but it's about entering this dark womb space, accepting the death aspect of all things, so life, death, rebirth. So we have to go through the death in order to achieve rebirth, which for us is at Yule, so Christmas time, 21st of December. So we have 6 weeks now to reflect on everything that's happened, everything that's gone well for you, some of the things that haven't gone well for you, and to take the lessons from that, the bones of that, and transform all of that into what you want for yourself in the coming year. It can be an uncomfortable time, and a word that always comes up for me is surrendering and leaning into that discomfort. It's all about shadow work, and I harp on about shadow work a lot, and I wouldn't be encouraging you to do anything that I haven't already done myself. Again, you can go to my website, you can read more about shadow work and the techniques that I use to achieve that. I'm not going to go into it too heavily now. Likely, you know, you've been going through some uncomfortable periods, some things that have been coming up for you, like this time of year, shit has a tendency to come up to the surface, and these are the things that you need to be looking at. These are the things that are calling for change. And as I say, that process of transformation is often uncomfortable, painful even. I'll give you an example. Oh, small bug. A few years ago now, I declared to myself, to the universe, that I wanted to feel more aligned, which triggered about 18 months of shadow work for me, because in order for me to achieve that alignment, I had to really look at my patterns, where they came from, the trauma that happened to me when I was younger, and essentially all of the unconscious things that affected the way that I reacted and behaved to stuff that came up in my life. So the whole point of shadow work is to bring consciousness to these unconscious parts and to really look at it. And if you have trauma, then yeah, that is going to be painful. My advice would be to support yourself in any way that you feel is going to help that process. This could be going to therapy, it could be making space for it. There's a huge amount of making space for things this time of year. Our ancestors would have done the work, they would have lived through summer and the growing season, harvested all of those things, made pickles and jams and stored away everything that they needed to get them through the coming winter. And we have this as above, so below. And it's the same in our lives. So, okay, we have supermarkets, we don't need to be necessarily storing away food to get us through the winter, but what in your psyche do you need to be looking at and doing the work of understanding? And on the other side of it comes, for me, greater alignment, greater understanding of myself, greater consciousness, greater ability to act rather than react, which was something that I recognized that I really needed to start doing. And anyone who has followed my social media for a while or who knows me personally will have seen the change in me and how much more happy I am. It's all about stepping into your power. For a lot of us, that's like learning to take up space, using our voice, standing up for ourselves, making change, but also just pursuing the things that you want. I use the words like claim to want a lot because it's very easy to say that you want something, to claim to want something, but are you willing to do the work? So you claim that you want to, I don't know, speak up for yourself more. You're going to be given opportunities to speak up for yourself more, which means that you're going to be challenged. Things are going to come up where you're going to be tempted to keep small and to keep quiet. So that's very much what this cauldron time is for. And again, I highly recommend that you do make space for that, because it's going to happen anyway. It's going to come up anyway. So why not take responsibility for it and make that space for yourself? You're going to have an easier time. You're going to see greater rewards of all the hard work that comes up if you're choosing to act rather than react. One of the phrases that I often use is to do the work before the work does you. And as I say, you can go over to my website. You can find a lot of support over there to help you out. So it's like pagan New Year, except it's all one and the same. So it's the end and the beginning all at the same time. So every ending is a beginning. So it's recognizing the things that are coming to an end now, grieving anything that you need to grieve, letting go of anything that you need to let go of. Like, there's a huge aspect of looking at our successes and our failures and really understanding our own part in all of those things. Just having a quick look at my notes. So I've got we use the word inner underworld quite a lot. In the mythology, there's obviously the story of Hades and Persephone. But shadow work is about going into those deep, dark parts of yourselves and acknowledging what you really want. Like so many of us, we go through life with our conditioning, just following the flow of going along with what everybody thinks we're supposed to be doing. And actually, I think a lot of us, if not all of us, can recognize that there is something that you want. There is things deep down that you want to pursue that for whatever reason you haven't, or you've told yourself you can't have, or you shouldn't ask for. And this time of year is really a time to tap into that and just go for it. Just ask for it. Going back to the uncomfortableness, yes, that can lead to a stripping away. And when we strip away, we can be left feeling raw. For me, there was definitely a lot of that. From an outside perspective, like, yes, I was suffering, I was going through a lot. But on the other side of it, I'm really glad that I did. I'm really glad that I let myself surrender to those things and I actively took myself on those journeys, because it did lead me to greater alignment. It did lead me to my purpose and my power. And now things flow really easily. I'm on the path that I wanted to be on. I'm heading towards the things that I wanted to be heading towards. Like, I still have a way to go. But it's about getting in line with what you feel called to do. Like, I was talking to somebody at one of the events that I was running, and was saying, it doesn't, even if you don't believe in the things that I believe in, even if you don't class yourself as a spiritual person, when you are aligned with what feels right to you, it feels good. Like, in terms of mental health, that dissonance between what you know you want and what you know you should or could be doing, when you're not doing it, it feels uncomfortable. So we get into maladaptive behaviours and destructive behaviours. So my advice is just always to go for it. And I know that that's not easy to do. Like, it's easier to say than it is to do. But this is a time of year where you could really be looking at what those things are for you, to be brave and to surrender. And I've got down here, death is the vital part of transformation. Like, into growth, you have to surrender to death in order to find rebirth on the other side. And Samhain is all about celebrating that death aspect and allowing it to be and to surrender to that. There's also A big lean into connecting with your ancestors and the dead. So we talk about the veil being thin this time of year. And you'll hear people going, oh, it's a veil, it's always thin. Well, yeah, but not everybody has access to it. Like, it's a privilege to have had the education that I've had and the space to practice and get in touch with all those things. So perhaps those who aren't as experienced as me, like, now's a good time to practice, to start. Maybe that's one of the things that you want yourself, is to start healing, to start engaging with spiritual practices. Like, now is the best time to be doing that. Basic practices to make space. So I've been cleaning my house today. I've got a bit more to do, and then I'm going to cleanse my space. So you smoke cleanse, and then I'm going to reset all of my protections and my wards, because you don't want anything coming in that is uninvited. And again, you can find descriptions of that over on my website, which is www.thewitchwench.com. But if you found this, then you're probably already familiar with that. So it's about looking ahead to renewal and an opportunity of renewing oneself, and maybe refocusing on the steps that you want to take, but accepting that in order to find that renewal, you first have to allow things to die. Sounds pretty intense, because it is intense. So speaking of intense, we're going to jump now from Samhain onto Scorpio. So Scorpio new moon, Scorpio season happening at the same time as Samhain is what ties it all together. And having that Scorpio energy, I struggled for a long time with Scorpio energy. I always say, like, I love Scorpio women, but I find Scorpio men much harder to deal with. And maybe that's just because Scorpio is it's a water sign. So it's the deepest, kind of darkest water sign. There's loads of memes out there about Scorpio energy and how intimidating and dark it is. And that's valid, like, it exists for a reason. If you've got a lot of Scorpio in your chart, I'm sure you can relate to that. People who are more comfortable with cutting people out and letting things go, and the darker side of things. And this is definitely an opportunity to lean into that for yourself and to access those things, like in doing the work of aligning, particularly if you're somebody who's more believes that they have to be kind of love and light all the time. If you are love and light all the time, and you believe that that's the only acceptable, valid way of doing things, you are not allowing half of yourself to exist. Like, we are human. We have darkness in us. And in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve and to find your power and your purpose, you're going to do that easier if you learn to embrace your darkness, which is what Scorpio gives us an opportunity to do. And again, if you're already doing the work, you're going to have an easier time of it than just letting it happen to you. Like, again, it's going to come up anyway. You might as well lean into it. So Scorpio, we've done its associations with death. The deepest, darkest emotions that we have, our deepest, darkest desires that we push down. It's a very sexy sign. There's a lot in there to do with sex. It's a great time to be engaging with your sexuality and remembering that that's the core of your creativity. Like, it doesn't have to be sex as in, like, the act of sex. It doesn't have to be with somebody else. Like, your creative life source energy comes... Oh, I've got hair in my face. Bah. Excuse me. Where was I? Oh, yeah, so your creativity comes from your life source energy, and that is the same as your sexual energy. You can use self-love practices and sex magic to explore that and to try and put that in the world a bit more. Like, now is a great time to be engaging with any of these things. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, which in Greek mythology is Hades. Got a big love for Hades. Again, I've been through on my own shadow work journey and my own ego death, which does exactly what it says on the tin. It does feel like a death, but it is the death of ego. Ego being what holds you back sometimes. It often comes from a place of needing to protect your inner child. It's where those patterns come up, these unconscious patterns that we repeat. And Hades is the king of shadow work, in helping us find that alignment, in accepting the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves. In the understanding that in order to be aligned and to be our most powerful selves and to reach our highest potential, we have to accept those things. So in the story of Persephone, Cora, and Hades, I've written about it a few times, so I'm not going to go into massive detail, but essentially Persephone, Cora was Maiden of Spring. In the, I want to say, original story, she was kidnapped by Hades. There's other stories coming about now, in the sense that these stories were rewritten by men and some of it was erased. It's like, was she kidnapped or did she willingly go because she knew that her life was lacking and that her gifts were lacking? So in going into the underworld with Hades and embracing that part of herself, she now gets to be Persephone, Cora, Maiden of Spring, and Queen of the Underworld. And if you go deeper into the mythology, there's actually evidence that she's a much older deity than that story. But again, these stories have been rewritten and retold over and over again by the people in power to suit their needs. So we can go into a whole rant about the patriarchy if we want to. I always want to. Am I going to do that right now? No, because I've got so much other stuff that I need to do, so I'm going to try and keep this post as succinct as possible. But that story really highlights like the need to accept the darkness in us in order to be reach our best potential. Do I need to hammer that home anymore? Probably not. So the fullest potential is found in embracing the very parts of you that you're afraid of. A lot of the words that have been coming up is things like divine rage. I know a few people who've been working on that as something that they've suppressed for a long time. You know, you have to be this good girl, this Maiden of Spring, in order to get the things that you want, and that you can't shout and rage, which is not true. And actually, as hard as it is for some people to see, and as ugly as it might be perceived to be, it's part of who you are, and it's a part particularly of women that's been suppressed for a really, really long time. And now I see it in myself and in others and in the collective, that women are waking up to this power that it has. And like, the world is afraid of it. The world is afraid of women waking up to this divine rage. Like, how long were we accused of being, you know, too emotional or hysterical? Even melodramatic was a word that came up for me a lot. But it signifies that there is something wrong. Like, why are you so full of rage? Because there's something wrong. Because a need is not being met. Because you're not being heard. Because we've been oppressed for centuries. Other things. So, like, divine rage is a big one that keeps coming up. But also, like, being honest with yourself about the things that you've been through. So many of us kind of push it aside for fear of not being in the right place to open those boxes and to look at those things. And that's valid. Like, if you don't feel safe to do that, perhaps use this new moon to be looking at what are the things that you need to be putting in place in order to do that. Because all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. And again, why not take responsibility for it? So maybe that's clearing some space, going into hermit mode, making space to do the shadow work. Maybe it's reaching out to get some therapy and to get some support in that place. Like, if you've got some really dark traumas in there that you're afraid of, by all means, that's why those professionals exist. For me, I use witchcraft, and witchcraft just being spicy psychology and a way of empowering oneself. So questions to ask yourself is, like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be next year? What does that person look like? If you're dealing with things like inner trauma and inner child trauma, inner teenage trauma, it's like, what does the person look like? The person that you needed at that time, the person that you needed to help you or save you. What do they look like? And how can you support yourself in growing into that person? A big thing that's been coming up a lot is villain era, in a sense of no more people pleasing. And when you stop people pleasing and you start putting boundaries in place, you're going to end up being the villain to some people because they have benefited from you not having those boundaries and from not speaking up. This is my housemate sneezing. Side note, I tried to assist myself and get some technology to help me record these better, and that has not gone well. So if anyone has any advice on where I can get microphones and things like that, that'd be great. It's one of the things that I'm working on, is like, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to have to learn a load more and get a lot more comfortable with it, which, as you can see by my body language, I am not the most comfortable right now. Anyway, moving swiftly on. I love the villain era stuff. Like, there's some great songs out there and soundtracks that can really help you waking up to that. But in order to get there, it's going through this process of allowing yourself to be sad, allowing those emotions that sit in there to come to the surface, and just sitting with them, surrendering to them, allowing them to exist. I always say that feelings are neither good nor bad. They just are. They are messages from the soul, and we are the ones who label them as good or bad. Like, personally, I can sit with sadness and process through sadness a lot easier than I can process anger, because I was taught through conditioning, social conditioning and parenting, and the fact that I was a girl, that it was not acceptable for me to be angry. Like, it's a, you know, tearful, women are tearful, but angry, oh no, that's not acceptable. And it's something that I still struggle with, like expressing anger in a healthy way, or finding a place to put that anger when it comes up. And for you, there might be other things. There might be shame in there. Shame's a really hard one to sit with. This new moon really brings us an opportunity to work with those feelings and to allow them. Like, if you're going to work with anybody in shadow work, like, why not Hades? Or Persephone Cora, if you want to align with the feminine energy more. Like, that's an energy that, a deity that has been through it firsthand. What else have I got here? I feel like I've worked through this one quite quickly. Questions to ask yourself. Hang on, I'm just gonna listen for a minute. So new moons, traditionally times for manifesting. So at full moons we do the letting go, and at new moons we do the calling in. And it being Samhain, you can do both at the same time. So acknowledging perhaps what is in your way and what those blockages are, and calling for those to be removed and to start working on removing those things. It can be asking for the support that you need to put in place in order to achieve these things. Maybe that support is in finding other like-minded people. Maybe there are women's circles you can call out to, or if you live locally to me, maybe you want to come to some of mine and connect with some other people, because this is something that we are going through as a collective. There is a huge shift that's happening right now, mostly being powered by women, but I am starting to see it waking up the other side of things. Like, I don't like to keep things gendered in terms of man, woman, but the masculine, feminine energies, the imbalance that people are feeling within themselves and out in the world, I can see that shifting now. And it is being powered by this divine rage of, no, we're not going to lay down and take this anymore. No, I don't want to carry on living this way. Like, I need change. I need support. I need other women. I need other men. We have to start talking about our feelings. And it being an eclipse season, so this solar eclipse, and then we've got another, so we're being kind of thrown into eclipse season, and eclipse season is catalytic. It can be chaotic. It brings up big change. It can feel dramatic and intense, and that's because it's bringing up the things that you need to be looking at. Like, expect some weird shit to be coming up, and when it does come up for you, that's when you want to lean into your shadow work. Like, do your journaling, do your meditating, do your talking to your inner child, whatever form of shadow work you feel most called to do. I think everybody has things, even those of us who have done a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of the work, like it's just one, but it's not, there's always more work to be done. There's layers and layers and stripping back, and yeah, like, I'm hoping that I have an easier time of it this time round than I did last year, because I have done more work, but I am under no illusions that it's still going to be painful and it's still going to be hard, and I'm still going to have more work to do, and I always will, because that is growth. And that's how you get to where you want to be, is by accepting and surrendering that. Like, you're never going to be done with it. So you might as well just accept that you're never going to be done with it and deal with these things as they come up. And yeah, being an eclipse season and being the state of the world and the way that it is right now, like, what are your choices? You can push it down further and you can pretend it's not there and hope that it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. It's going to come back. So you could just dive straight into it with your shadow work and your sex magic practices. What else? So in a minute I'm going to move on to like the rest of the astrology and the connections that are being made that are going to support you in that. I just want to feel into if there's anything else to say around Scorpio and Pluto and Hades energy. We've done that bit. No, I think that's it. Like, so eclipse season, cauldron, enter the cauldron willingly, be prepared, allow it to alchemize your pain and the suffering that you've been through this year into change and into what you're no longer going to accept, and that means putting new practices in place and putting new boundaries in place. Yeah, I feel pretty confident that I've covered that bit. Okay, so we'll move on to elsewhere in astrology. So elsewhere in astrology right now, we have Mars in trine with the Sun and the Moon and Mercury. So Mars has come up a lot. There's been a lot of Mars energy. So Mars is action, is war, is big fiery energy. The Sun is how we express ourselves outwardly, and the Moon is our deepest inner emotions. And Mercury is communication, logic. So I see this harmonious energy between them as helping us to verbalize the action that we want and to bring the change that we want from our emotions, because that's what emotions are. They're telling us what needs to be changed. It's helping us bring all of that into the tangible, into action, into... Oh, my little ring light died. One moment. Oh no, now the lighting is terrible. See what I mean about technical difficulties. Oh well, we're just going to carry on. I am now not as well lit as I was a moment ago. So I lean forward. Is that better? Can you see me okay? Oh god. Ooh, right. Where were we? Mars in trine, Sun, Moon and Mercury. Yeah, so it's going to help us. It's going to help us in bringing about this change into action, and there's a big emphasis on communicating it. Maybe you need to communicate your need for change to others. Often it can just be you communicating it out loud to yourself acknowledges that you really want it, and that's the best way to manifest anything. Like, the first step is saying it out loud, because that's acknowledging that you're willing to do the work. Like, you want this thing. We have Saturn now not stationed retrograde, so Saturn has gone direct. Saturn is this... Do I want to talk about that right now? Okay, so we've had this Saturn-Uranus clash for a while. So it's the expansion versus restriction. And now that Saturn is no longer being stationed direct, now is stationing direct, rather, you can expect to see things moving forwards a bit easier. So some of the things that you've been coming up against, some of the restrictions that you've been feeling, and now you're going to start seeing momentum in those areas, which works really nicely with this trine with Mars, the Sun, Moon, Mercury. Hopefully these are things that you've been aware of, that you've been moving towards, and you've been taking responsibility for. So expect to see things moving quite quickly in those areas. Maybe you've been feeling like you're walking through treacle and you're just not getting anywhere with it. Keep going, because it's gonna start going. Like, I was talking about my own journey a while ago and how I felt like I was like plodding up this hill and it was taking ages to get there, and oh my god, this is so difficult, and then it's all of a sudden like like catapulted into change and into all these things that I'd been saying that I wanted. So that's the Saturn energy. We also have Venus, lovely, loving Venus. So Venus, goddess of love, Aphrodite. Big highlight on relationships, including relationship to self. Beauty comes up, but not like, don't think like capitalist beauty, think like self-love beauty, and being able to ask for those things that you want, being able to have the confidence to love yourself and to go and get the things that you need in order to start loving yourself. So Venus is conjunct Sun and Moon. So again, Sun, how we put ourselves forward in the world, how the world perceives our actions. The Moon being our inner selves and emotions and things that we want. So this nice harmonious energy with Venus, bringing up an ability to go after that change, an ability to go after the things that we want in relationships. Now, this could initially be uncomfortable in terms of like, maybe things aren't the way that you want, maybe having arguments in your relationships, maybe your relationship with self doesn't feel that comfy right now. This Venus energy, again, that's like, if you're not comfortable with something, it's because it needs changing, and this Venus energy is going to help you do that. Venus is also in Scorpio right now, so, you know, adding to that sexy, dark goddess energy, that Plutonian shadow work energy. So expect to come up against some of these things, calling for change, and also know that, like, through love of self, that's how you're going to find it. Again, we come back to the villain era. You stop people pleasing, you start putting boundaries in place, you're a villain to somebody. Fuck it. Own it. Like, people are going to call you an asshole for trying to learn to love yourself and do better in your life. Fine, be the asshole. I don't know how far you want to take that, how comfortable you are with that part of yourself. Maybe it's time to get comfy with that. Why not? I've done it. It feels fucking awesome. I'm never going back to being quiet, making myself small for the sake of keeping other people comfortable because they don't want to look at their own shit. Like, nah, no, we're not doing that anymore. It's 2022. We're not doing that anymore. So that's Venus. And then we also have, oh, this is quite tasty. I've been looking forward to talking about this. So we have a quincunx, I think that's how you say it. Again, harmonious energy. So you have Jupiter, Zeus, Sky Daddy, expansion, lightning bolts, Aquarius energy, catalytic change energy, in this harmonious connection with the sun, the moon, outward expression, inward feelings of change, and lovely, lovely Venus. So our relationships with self, now having this added sprinkling of Jupiter expansive energy. And I've got here, so imbalances are being brought to light. So where things have been out of balance, you're now going to have an opportunity to bring those things more into balance. If you're doing the work, expect success in the areas that you've been working already. If you haven't been doing the work, expect discomfort prompting change. So, you know, if there's a relationship that's not serving you, and you know for a while it's not been serving you, but you've been hiding from that, or you just want it all to blow over, it's not going to blow over, it's going to blow up. It's going to blow up so that you can take responsibility for it and finally let that shit go. Really sorry. I'd love to put it a bit easier for you. If this is resonating with you, my advice is that, how bad does it need to get? Like, what needs to happen in order for you to let go? Because you're being called to let go of it, so why not just let go? Yeet that shit. It's going to hurt, it's going to be hard, but on the other side of it is going to be all of these other things. You clear this space out so that you can fill it with things better serving you, better helping you get to where you want to be and the purposes that you are here to complete. I also when I talk about imbalances, like something's been out of balance for ages. Like you can see, right? So it's been like this for a while, and we'll use relationships as an example, or the patriarchy, whatever you want. It's been out of balance, and you want to bring it into balance. Maybe it's your relationship with self or body or spirituality, right? You want to bring it into balance. It is not automatically going to go, balance achieved. Like, it's going to go like this. It's going to get knocked out of balance. You're going to have to swing between the two, and it's going to go, and then maybe you'll find balance for a bit, and then it's going to go like that, then it's going to go like this. Like, when I wanted to achieve balance, I said I wanted to achieve more balance. With my body was one. I wanted to start listening to my body more. My body was pissed off. I was like, I'm going to start listening to my body. I want to get more in my body and align with my body. Started listening to my body, and my body was like, fuck you, fuck this. Here's another thing that's been going on for years that you've not listened to. And I definitely had moments where I was like, oh God, why did I ask for this thing? Like, it hurts. Everything hurts. I'm going to have to spend loads of money now to go and see osteopaths, and I'm going to have to put loads of time into doing yoga and engaging with my spiritual practices more. Resting more was a hard one for me to come to terms with. So yeah, I did not go, my body's all out of balance and I'm not listening to it, to like, I have balance with my body now. I went, my body's all out of balance and I'm not listening to it, to my body is screaming at me and now I have to do all this work. And I started doing the work and now it's back in balance. So I don't know what areas of your life you've been feeling imbalances in, but this nice Jupiter energy, this expansion with that loving Venus as well, like, again, expect to see things moving really quickly now. And using Samhain and using this new moon, if you're going to be calling in these things, if you're going to be manifesting these things and asking for these things, great, amazing, do the work. It's going to be great. I'm so happy for you. But just don't be alarmed. Like, I used to, you call myself, or Sarah, if you end up watching this, we used to talk about how I felt like I was a little gecko in a storm. So like a big raging storm, and I'm this gecko clinging on going, God, and not necessarily waiting for the storm to pass, but like holding on through it. And now we've changed it to, I'm this little Siberian flying squirrel that's just chilling in the storm, munching on a leaf, and I've got my fluffy coat on, and I know that the storm's going to pass. Yeah, I don't know if you feel like you're a gecko, or if you're the gecko now, you're going to be the Siberian flying squirrel eventually. It takes practice. It is all about practice. Those are the positive, harmonious ones happening in astrology right now. Some of the more challenging aspects that we have coming up, there are three squares. Squares are conflicting energy. So we have Pluto square Mercury, so the shadow work, the transformative energy, the death aspect, coming into conflict with communication, logic. That's going to be a tricky one. It's going to be conflict and blockages in the way of you communicating to others and to yourself. And again, these conflicts, it's to show you where you need to change. It's to show you where the blockages are that you need to overcome. Like, don't be sat there going, oh my God, like, there's a square and it's going to be so hard. Like, yeah, it's going to be hard, but it's also showing you exactly where you need to be looking. It's showing you exactly where the lessons are. So you're going to have to get better at communicating. You're going to have to get better at being honest with yourself. You're going to have to get better at surrendering to this period of transformation. Fun times. We also have a square between Neptune and Mars. So Neptune is Poseidon, the sea. Again, deep emotions. Also speaks to like universal love, the connection of all things through water. So not person-to-person love. It's like how you serve your community, the world, your purpose, coming into conflict with Mars, action, war. So I see this as throwing up conflicts in those areas of like getting ahead, acting the way that you want to act, serving, following your purpose. So this might feel like doors closing in your face. It might feel like, oh, I thought I was on the right path there and it was going really well, and now all of a sudden it's not. Again, squares are showing you where the lessons are and where you need to be changing. Last one, we still have this ongoing Saturn Uranus. So conflict between expansion, feeling called to expand, being called to move on to new things, and then coming up against restriction. That restriction might not be coming from inside the house. It could be coming from the fact that you've not done the shadow work, so you don't really believe that you can be doing these things. Or it could be coming from outside. It could be coming from the fact that society's told you can't be doing these things and you can't be having these things. It could be coming from the patriarchy keeping you oppressed and small structures in place. It could be coming from work or relationship. And again, squares are showing you where the conflict is. They're showing you where the blockages need to be removed. So what are the blockages that you're coming up against? What's stopping you from being able to expand? And tying all the way back in again to it being Samhain and it being the new moon in Scorpio, the key to all of this is doing the shadow work and owning it and taking responsibility for it. And that's it in terms of astrology right now, or the very small astrology reading that I can give you in this garbled format. Practices that you can do at this time, again, making lots of space for yourself. I find journaling really helpful. I do use mugwort and dream journeying. I lean into the support of others. I talk to a lot of women in my circle and just generally everybody as I go through life. You could use, I'm doing an ancestral, there's an ancestral healing ritual on my website that is intense. If you feel called to do that, it's amazing. I designed it for myself. It was life-changing. I actually did it at this time of year a couple of years ago when I started on that journey of wanting to be more aligned with myself. Again, it led to ego death. Ego death is a death, but it's a gift that I would definitely do again, and I'm going to have to do again more than once in my life, no doubt. I'm doing a more gentle version of that. I'm leading a group of people in calling in support from their ancestors, being Samhain. We'll be doing a dummy supper, leaving out offerings, calling in that support. It's a great thing to do. You are not alone. You are the curse breaker of your generation, and there are people in your generational line, beings, energies that are fucking here for it. They want you to be doing this work. By healing yourself, you are healing them. The trauma that you were given was handed down to you. They went through it. They want to see you succeed at overcoming it. So calling in that support allows you to have greater confidence in your intuition. It can show you the way clearer. That's the whole point of doing it. That's what you're asking for. Other practices, any form of meditation, any of those shadow work practices, just allowing yourself to sit there and be and listen, asking yourself what hurts, what's uncomfortable right now, why does it hurt, why is it uncomfortable, what other times in my life have I felt the same way, what is the change that is being called for right now. And then that will lead you ultimately to what can I do? What change can I make? That you don't have to make the change right now. You could leave it right up until spring. The whole point of this period of time is to sit and be and allow things to just be it negative feelings, be it grieving something that hasn't gone well for you, grieving something that you've lost that was really important to you. I struggle with impatience a lot, so definitely a one for I just want to be getting there and doing it now. One thing that I've learned through doing this through many years is that it doesn't fucking work that way. You have to sit there in the uncomfortableness and the urge that you feel to be oh no, I know exactly what that is now. I'm just going to leap ahead and do all of these. That is, believe me, that is the wrong way to go about it. You are going to be knocked on your ass back into those cauldron and those deep depths so quickly. So use this as an opportunity. An opportunity to identify. It's so meta. Me identifying that I'm so impatient and that doesn't serve me meant that I had to sit in that cauldron for so much longer, and to sit with those feelings for so much longer. Like, I struggled with feelings of failure, it being an alien, thinking that I knew the way and that I would go, oh, I'll just try this thing and that'll work. And it's like, no, back on your ass. Like, there's more in there. There's more feelings that you have to unpack. There's all of this toxic patterns, this conditioned stuff, this internalized trauma, this internalized misogyny that I had about myself. Yeah, it's a fun time. It's not about having a fun time. Scorpio energy is, you know, it's not Leo energy, it's not Aquarian energy, it's Scorpio energy. It's dark, and embracing that darkness is the best gift that you'll ever give yourself. I know it sounds counterintuitive, I know, but it's the truth. I think that's about it. I don't think I have anything else. Other practices that you could do. Obviously there's all the divinations. Like, this is a great time of year for divination if you feel like you need some more answers in where to be going, where to be looking, where to be heading. Like, use your tarot cards, use your crystals. It's a fire festival, so fire divination, just allowing your eyes to lose focus while you're looking at candle flame or at a fire flame. I've got a wood burner or a fireball in the garden, and just allowing yourself to quiet your mind and see what messages come through there. Like, tonight is going to be a great night for doing that. It's a great time for any shamanic practices that you like to partake in, and connecting with ancestors and plant wisdom and the earth in that way. There's ritual baths and things, so cleansing away the old, filling in space with the new. Yeah, if you go onto my website, you'll find a load of stuff over there to support you. I'm hoping / actively working on, I'm going to be a bit quieter on social media and whatnot through this cauldron time as I do my own work. I'll probably make a few more of these videos. I hope you like them. Even if you don't like them, it doesn't matter. It's a good way for me to integrate my own knowledge and understanding. But yeah, if you do like it, give me a like and share, maybe a follow. Head over to my website, see what's over there. You can reach out to me via email. Here I am saying that I'm not going to be available quite so much because I'm going to be in my own little resting in the cauldron time, and yet I'm also saying, yeah, reach out to me, let me know what you want to see more of. But yeah, I'll take it all on board. I might not necessarily act upon it right away. That will be practice for me. But I wish you well on your journey. I wish you strength. I encourage you to be ballsy and embrace your villain era and embrace your divine rage and embrace death and change and surrender. And I guess I'll see you on the other side. I can't think of anything else that I need to add to that. So, I don't know. In about 5 minutes, I'll probably think of about 6 other things that I want to add to it. But I have other things to do today. So, yeah, peace out. Blessed Samhain. Happy Halloween. Happy New Moon. I'm not going to hope that eclipse season is gentle with you. That is something that I probably used to say, but nah, I don't want it to be gentle with you. I want it to wake you the fuck up so that you can do the things that you need to do and make the change that you need to make. Because on the other side of it is fucking awesome glory and feeling confident in yourself and stepping into your power. Which is something that everybody says they want, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm just going to step into my power. Like, that's the fucking easiest thing in the world. Like, yeah, you have to crawl through your own personal underworld to get there. So if that's a journey that you're going to be going on, know that I've been through it too, and you are not alone. And you can just keep going, and it's going to lead to something fucking amazing for you and for everybody. It's going to be great. Yeah. Peace out, witches. Have a great day. I love you. Mwah.